There's a moment in every thriller where the hero crosses a line they can never come back from. But what happens when that hero isn't fictional? What happens when the FBI's most trusted cybersecurity expert becomes their most wanted cybercriminal? This is the story of Max Butler, a man who saved the internet from collapse, then nearly destroyed it from within. A man who went from patching government servers to stealing 1.8 million credit cards. A man whose fall from grace would become one of the most spectacular betrayals in FBI history. His code name was Equalizer, but the world would come to know him as Iceman. Max Vision Butler didn't grow up wanting to be a hacker. Born in 1972 in Idaho, he was a quiet, intensely curious kid who discovered computers at a time when most people didn't have them in their homes. While other teenagers were playing sports or chasing dates, Max was teaching himself programming languages, exploring the early internet, and learning the architecture of systems that most adults couldn't even comprehend. By his early 20s, Max had developed a reputation in the tech community. He wasn't one of those anarchist hackers who wanted to watch the world burn. He was a white hat, a good guy, someone who believed that technology could make the world better and safer. He found vulnerabilities in systems not to exploit them, but to fix them. And that's exactly what caught the FBI's attention. In the late 1990s, as the internet was exploding into mainstream consciousness, the United States government faced a terrifying reality. Their cybersecurity infrastructure was a disaster. Thousands of government servers were running outdated software with known vulnerabilities. It was only a matter of time before someone with malicious intent could exploit these weaknesses and bring down critical systems. The FBI needed someone who could think like a hacker but work like an agent. They needed Max Butler. In 2000, Max was recruited by the FBI as a cybersecurity consultant. His mission was simple on paper, but monumental in execution. Identify and patch vulnerabilities across government networks before the bad guys could exploit them. Max was given something unprecedented: authorized access to government systems and the FBI's blessing to hack them. He was told to break in, find the weaknesses and fix them. No questions asked. It was every ethical hacker's dream, a chance to use his skills for genuine good. And Max was brilliant at it. Operating under the code name Equalizer, Max worked tirelessly, often pulling all-nighters in front of glowing monitors. He would probe systems, find the cracks, and quietly patch them. Over the course of several months, Max secured an estimated 48,000 government servers, closing backdoors that could have been catastrophic national security risks. Think about that for a moment. 48,000 servers, each one a potential entry point for foreign adversaries, terrorist organizations, or criminal syndicates. Max Butler, working largely alone, prevented what could have been multiple cyber catastrophes. The FBI praised him. They trusted him. They gave him access to their most sensitive tools and techniques. They taught him their methods, their exploits, their classified approaches to digital investigation. They were creating a weapon they believed they could control. They were wrong. But something was changing in Max. The more he worked with government systems, the more he saw the hypocrisy. He was patching vulnerabilities that government agencies sometimes left open intentionally. He saw wasteful spending, bureaucratic incompetence, and a system that seemed more interested in covering its tracks than actually protecting citizens. And then there was the money, or lack of it. Max was being paid a consultant's fee while doing work that was worth millions. He watched as defense contractors got rich off government contracts, while he ate ramen noodles and worked from a cramped apartment. In 2001, something inside Max snapped. The details remain murky, but what's clear is that Max began using his FBI-granted access in unauthorized ways. He was caught accessing systems he wasn't supposed to touch, conducting reconnaissance that went beyond his mandate. The FBI investigation was swift. Max Butler was charged with computer crimes, convicted, and sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. The Golden Boy, the hero who had saved thousands of government servers, was now a convicted felon. He was released in 2003, having served his time. The FBI believed they had neutralized the threat. They had made an example of Max Butler. They thought the story was over. They had no idea it was just beginning. Prison changes people. Some emerge reformed, determined never to return. Others emerge harder, angrier, with a burning desire for revenge or redemption. Max Butler emerged transformed. The FBI had taught him everything about cybersecurity, vulnerabilities, and digital forensics. Prison taught him something else, how the criminal underworld actually worked. He met people inside who knew about carding forums, stolen credit cards, and the dark web marketplaces where criminals traded stolen data like baseball cards. Max realized something profound. He had been fighting on the wrong side. The government had used him, betrayed him, and tossed him aside. But in the criminal underground, someone with his skills could become a king. By 2004, Max had adopted a new identity online, Iceman. The name was deliberate, a reference to the calm, calculating approach he would take. No more idealistic white hat trying to save the world. Now, he would be pragmatic, ruthless, and incredibly wealthy. Max began frequenting carding forums, websites where criminals bought and sold stolen credit card information. But he wasn't just a participant. He was studying the ecosystem, looking for weaknesses, planning something audacious. Before we continue with Max's descent into the criminal underworld, I want to take a quick moment. If you're finding this story as fascinating as I did researching it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so you're the first to know when we release similar content about the most incredible true crime and technology stories you've never heard. Trust me, Max Butler's story is about to get even more unbelievable. Now, here's where Max's story becomes almost cinematic in its audacity. The carding world in the mid-2000s was fragmented. Multiple forums existed: Carter's Market, Shadow Crew, Dark Market, each run by different criminals, each with their own buyers and sellers. Competition was fierce, and trust was non-existent. Deals went bad, people got ripped off, and forum administrators were constantly worried about FBI infiltration. Max saw an opportunity. What if he could unite all these forums under one roof? What if he could create the Amazon of stolen credit cards, a one-stop shop where criminals could buy and sell with confidence? But these forums weren't going to merge willingly, so Max decided to take them by force. Using the same techniques the FBI had taught him, Max launched a series of sophisticated cyber attacks against rival carding forums. He would hack into their servers, steal their entire databases, customer lists, credit card inventories, private messages, everything. Then he would shut them down. The attacks were surgical and devastating. Carter's Market, one of the largest forums, woke up one morning to find their servers completely compromised. Months of criminal transactions, thousands of stolen credit cards, all gone, all stolen by Iceman. Max would then contact the displaced criminals and offer them a new home, his own forum called Carter's Market, which he had essentially rebranded after hijacking the name. He promised better security, better cards, and better deals. And they came. Within months, Max had consolidated the entire English-speaking carding underworld under his control. He had accomplished what no other cybercriminal had ever done. He had monopolized an entire criminal market. At its peak, Max Butler's Carter's Market empire was processing millions of dollars in illegal transactions. The operation worked like this. Hackers would break into retail systems, restaurants, hotels, anywhere credit cards were processed, and steal the card data. They would sell this data to Max's forum. Then buyers, often organized crime groups, would purchase the cards and either use them for fraud or sell them to others. Max took a cut of every transaction. He was the house, and the house always wins. The numbers are staggering. Over the course of his operation, Max facilitated the theft and sale of approximately 1.8 million credit card numbers. The total value of the fraud committed with these cards is estimated at over $500 million. But Max wasn't just a criminal mastermind. He was paranoid, meticulous, and brilliant at covering his tracks. He used encryption, proxy servers, and sophisticated anonymization techniques. He never used the same computer twice for sensitive operations. He constantly changed his location and his methods. He had learned from the best, after all. The FBI had trained him in digital forensics and investigative techniques. He knew exactly what law enforcement would be looking for, and he made sure they would never find it. For years, Max Butler was essentially untouchable. But the FBI doesn't forget. And they especially don't forget when one of their own goes rogue. A special task force was assembled, dedicated solely to taking down Iceman and dismantling Carter's market. They knew they were dealing with someone who understood their methods, someone who had been on the inside. The investigation was frustrating and slow. Every lead seemed to evaporate. Every time they thought they were close, Iceman would vanish, change his patterns, and emerge somewhere else. It was like hunting a ghost who knew all your moves before you made them. But Max was human, and humans make mistakes. In 2007, investigators finally caught a break. Through painstaking analysis of digital breadcrumbs, transaction patterns, linguistic analysis of forum posts, and good old-fashioned detective work, they began to close in. They identified servers Max was using. They tracked financial transactions. They found the tiniest inconsistencies in his operational security. The net was tightening, but Max didn't know it yet. September 5, 2007, San Francisco, California. FBI agents surrounded a small apartment. Inside was Max Butler, sitting in front of his computers, managing his criminal empire. He had no idea that the digital fortress he had built so carefully was about to come crashing down. The arrest was anticlimactic compared to the years of buildup. No dramatic chase, no final hack, just a knock on the door and a flash of badges. Max Butler, the man who had once been the FBI's Equalizer and then became their most wanted cybercriminal Iceman, was in handcuffs. The evidence against him was overwhelming. The FBI had cracked his encryption, traced his transactions, and had testimonies from dozens of criminals who had worked with or been victimized by him. Max had consolidated the carding underworld, which made the FBI's job easier once they caught him. Instead of taking down multiple small operations, they had decapitated the entire network in one arrest. Max Butler's trial was a spectacle. The man who had saved 48,000 government servers now stood accused of orchestrating one of the largest cybercrime operations in history. The prosecution painted him as a traitor who had used government training to commit massive fraud. The defense argued he was a victim of a system that had used and discarded him. In 2010, Max Butler was sentenced to 13 years in federal prison, one of the longest sentences ever handed down for cybercrime at that time. He was ordered to pay $27.5 million in restitution, money he would likely never be able to repay. As he was led away to begin his sentence, Max reportedly showed little emotion. The brilliant mind that had once protected the internet and then nearly broke it was now confined to a prison cell. Max Butler was released from prison in 2019, having served his time. He's now in his 50s, a convicted felon in a world that's moved on from the carding forums of the 2000s. The digital landscape he once dominated has evolved beyond recognition. But his story remains a cautionary tale, a warning about the dangerous intersection of talent, betrayal, and opportunity. The FBI created Max Butler. They gave him the skills, the access, and the knowledge. And when they felt betrayed by him, he used everything they taught him against them. It's impossible to know if Max would have become Iceman without first being Equalizer. Did the FBI create their own nemesis? The truth is probably more complicated. Max Butler made his own choices. He chose to cross lines that others with similar skills and similar grievances never crossed. He chose to build a criminal empire rather than rebuild his legitimate career. But there's no denying the tragic irony. The man who once saved the internet from collapse became the man who built one of its most destructive criminal enterprises. In the end, Max Butler's story is about transformation, about how heroes can become villains, how trust can be weaponized, and how the same skills that protect can also destroy. He was Equalizer, the FBI's secret weapon. He was Iceman, the criminal mastermind. But most of all, he was a reminder that in the digital age, the line between security and crime is sometimes just a matter of perspective, and that the greatest threat might come from the person you trust most. The internet survived Max Butler, both his protection and his attack. But the question remains, how many other Equalizers are out there right now, one bad decision away from becoming the next Iceman? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of cybercrime's most fascinating stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll be bringing you more incredible true stories of hackers, criminals, and the fine line between genius and criminality. See you in the next one.